Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have Daniel Franco of Burnt Timber Outfitters out of Heber, Arizona, based out of Unit 3C. Daniel, how you doing?
Great. How you doing, Jay?
Good. We're just coming off of turkey season. I know you had a few tags up in Unit 3C, and typically you're pretty hard on the birds up there. How was the turkey season?
Not very good. We struggled. It was a different year. It was extremely dry, obviously, and I think that definitely affected the birds. They just didn't want to play. So we didn't put a dent in them this year like we normally do. So should make next year maybe a little better.
Do you think there'll be some holdover birds? I mean, was your general consensus of even the guys with the general season tags and what have you, that the birds were just shut down and weren't real cooperative?
Yeah, it was slow all the way around from the junior even into the generals. I've talked to a few of the guys that had general tags, and it's just tough. In fact, it got to the point where there was enough hunting pressure that it just shut them down completely. So we had,
it makes me think of. Sorry to interrupt. It makes me think of those days after the Rodeo Chetasky fire, Daniel, when we had, 3 or 4, maybe 5 years in a row there where the turkey hunting in 3C was just, literally ridiculous and off the charts. I remember going out mornings where you'd go out, I'd go out, Mikey'd go out, and we'd report back, 15 different gobblers heard, roosted, 6 different birds, where do you want to go? Oh, I got 6 over here. I got 12 over here. I got 3 here. I got, a couple lone birds here. And it was a free-for-all. And it's kind of hard to hear it where it's kind of gotten to now.
Yeah, those were definitely the good old days. We did see a slight rebound here a couple of years ago, but we're back down to where numbers are low. It's just tough hunting. So,
what are obviously we've got the deer and sheep regulations. The applications here are due coming up that second week in June. You've got the 3C deer hunts, both the archery and the rifle hunts. Before we get into talking about that, conditions-wise, how did we fare in Unit 3C through the winter, and what are our conditions exactly right now?
Well, they're not good. We didn't get the winter moisture that we like to get and like to see. We didn't get the snowpack that we normally have in the unit. We did get some rains and smaller, snowstorms, but we didn't get that snowpack that we normally do. So that's definitely hurt us. I was, I guess shocked would be the correct word to use, in spending a couple of weeks in 3C on that turkey hunt and scouting and whatnot. I was shocked at the number of tanks, stock tanks that I came across that were dry that, to be honest with you, I hadn't seen dry in a lot of years. In fact, there's some tanks that I've never seen dry in 3C that are actually dry this year. So, as far as the feed is concerned, we've got feed, but it's not that good green feed that packs a lot of the nourishment and nutrients that the animals need. We were hoping for some moisture this spring to, kind of give us a jump start there on some new growth, as far as the grass and everything was concerned, and hope that would, help the elk and the deer out. We kind of didn't get that moisture, so it's going to be interesting to see, kind of what does happen this year. But yeah, we are extremely dry, and I think that is going to hurt us this year.
Daniel, we talked before on the podcast. I've had you on talking about elk up there, and obviously deer up there, among other things. So what we've got is the archery deer seasons in 3C. They're by draw only, and I'm looking at those dates right here. August 24th to September 13th, there's 75. That's an any antler deer permit. And that's in Unit 3A, 3C, and then you've got the 3C rifle hunts, which are October 26th, I believe, is the start date. October 26th through November 4th, there's 100 tags. Have those tag numbers changed? It seems like 100 tags is a little bit lower. Seems like I remember them up as high as 150 rifle tags. Talk a little bit about the tag allocations this year for the deer in 3C, and talk a little bit about the season dates and if there's any major change in those pros and cons or what have you of those dates and the tag numbers.
Well, the tag numbers have been flat across the board on that archery and that rifle hunt the last couple of years. They did decrease the archery by 25 here a couple of years ago, so we're down to 75 there. The 100 tags on the rifle hunt it's been at 100 here for the last couple of years, ever since they changed it to an alternative management unit, which is good. The biggest thing is they're just not, on their surveys, they're not seeing the number of bucks that they would like to see for the kind of their expectations of what they want for an alternative management unit. So because of that, they've kept tag numbers where they're at, which in my honest opinion is kind of right where they need to be. I think they're kind of right on track to continuing to try to increase the quality in the unit. So the dates, the tricky thing about that archery hunt is with that hunt starting in August, our deer kind of south of the ditch, so to speak, they tend to rut quite a bit later than your Arizona strip deer and your Kaibab deer and even your Utah and Colorado deer. We typically don't start to see rutting activity until kind of the beginning to middle of December on our mule deer, which in turn they typically don't start to shed their antlers until end of March, 1st of April, middle of April. I've even seen bucks during the turkey season, the middle to end of April, that are still packing their horns from the previous year. So because they seem to just cycle everything a little bit later than the northern deer, if you would. So by the time that archery hunt starts, our deer are still pretty undeveloped, and it's not uncommon to shoot a buck during that archery season that will lose 10 to 15 inches of antler in both mass and length just because they're so underdeveloped. Unfortunately, the way that they structure the hunts in Arizona with the deer rolling right into the archery elk, rolling right into the early rifle elk to the cow hunts and whatnot, it's kind of hard to really change that without overlapping these hunts, which, the game and fish doesn't like to do. So, unfortunately, we kind of, it's just the nature of the beast. You just kind of have to know that if you are going to hunt 3C archery, then, there's a pretty good chance that the 160 and 170 inch type bucks that you're seeing and chasing are essentially going to be those 170, 180, and maybe even up into the low 190 type bucks by the time they finish out growing the end of September, and will start to rub there the first part of October. So as far as the October hunt's concerned, it's definitely not a pre-rut hunt in any way, shape, or form. It's like I said, the bucks are just starting to rub their velvet by about the end of September, very first of October. So by the time that October hunt starts, the bucks are all bachelored up in their bachelor herds. They don't want anything to do with the does. They'll actually kind of avoid the does and go into areas to stay away from the does, which is kind of nice because they're bachelored up. There's large groups of bucks. They're still fairly docile, just coming out of velvet, but they're starting to establish a little bit of dominance and pecking order between the bucks in the area. So
you guys had a phenomenal year last year with deer in Unit 3C, and it's a question I'm sure you get a lot. I get it quite a bit. Listeners of the podcast wanting to know, if they don't have max point, or if they're not chasing a strip or a Kaibab tag, what's their next best alternative? 3C is one of those units that comes up a lot of times in that discussion as, a unit for 180 type plus buck, 180 class type bucks or better. Do you still feel like with the drought and what have you this year, that there will be 180-inch, type bucks and on up to 190, maybe even 200-inch type bucks? Or do you feel like the drought is going to obviously affect antler growth on the mule deer, or do you feel like it doesn't affect the mule deer as much?
We haven't, since 3C has really started to, improve on quality and whatnot, we really haven't had any dry years to kind of compare it to. The one thing that I'm really concerned about this year is, with as dry as it is, I'm concerned that we're not going to have the acorn crop that we normally do with the old burn. We've got a lot of oak trees, a lot of some live oak patches, which over the years have produced a pretty good acorn crop, and the mule deer especially really take advantage of that, and I think that's really helped them over the years as far as nutrients and packing on some antlers. So my biggest concern with as dry as it is that we don't get those acorns, and I think that definitely will affect our mule deer. As far as moisture and whatnot, I know the Game and Fish is starting to haul some water to tanks. I know there are some tanks that do still have water. The feed, because they're more of a browser than they are a grazer. I think as far as we're still getting new shoots on trees and whatnot that they'll be able to feed on and should get some nutrients there. It's the grasses that are really hurting right now. So, it's kind of up in the air. I'm kind of interested to see actually how they do this year. I don't think they'll be affected as hard as the elk will be, but I still think if we don't get the acorns, then I think that we'll definitely see it this year. So,
you guys last year had a pretty bang-up season for big bucks, and it seems like year after year you guys are able to dredge a few out. Talk a little bit about you guys' success last year on the 3C mule deer hunt.
Well, I've always held to the model that even a blind squirrel can find a nut every now and then, and we found a few nuts last year. So we had a phenomenal year. We killed a 214 and a 206 out of 3C, which those are only the number 2 and number 3 bucks that we've killed out of 3C that are over 200 since we've been hunting the unit, since I was 14. I haven't seen very many other bucks that would even crack the 200-inch mark come out of 3C, over the years. So, 200, if you're looking for a 200-inch deer, 3C is not the unit to apply for. I still think it's a great 180-inch unit. We did kill the 3 bucks last year, the 180, the 206, and the 214. And that's typically what we strive for, is we try to find, a good mature buck that's going to score in that 180, plus range. So, a lot of weeding through younger, smaller bucks. Still seeing a lot of good genetics and good potential in younger bucks too, and even some 3-year-old bucks that are 150, 160, approaching that 170-inch mark that just need to get that age class to be able to explode into some of these bigger bucks. And as long as we can keep having some growers coming up and keep kind of skimming off the top, then I think we'll still be okay. So,
with that being said, you have a bang up year last year. Are there holdover bucks that you feel like bucks of that should be pretty darn good bucks going into this, summer season?
There's a few, not as many as I would like to have, to be honest with you. We did kill a couple of the bucks that we've been watching over the years, and just had the right clients and the right scenarios and situations, and we're able to capitalize on some of those. So there were definitely 2 bucks from last year that made it through the season that I'm pretty excited to find and see what they turn into this year. Both of them fairly young bucks. We did have a buck from 2 years ago that was one of our target bucks, and kind of interested to see if he turns back up this year. We did not see him last year. We figured that he was right at 190 2 years ago. Didn't see him last year. Kind of excited to see if he ends up showing back up this year. So, unfortunately, with having 3C border the White Mountain Apache Reservation, a lot of these bucks will kind of cross back and forth, and we just don't know the fate of them. We don't have a lot of lions in 3C, but we do have some. But this is a buck. If somebody would have found a lion kill, I'm sure we would have heard about it. So, but we do have a couple of bucks. I'm interested to see what they turn into this year. That were in that one upper 60s, low 70s. One was even closer to 180. That you could tell were just young bucks that just needed another year or two to see what they turn into.
For sure. I want to take just a second, Daniel, here and thank the sponsors of the podcast. I want to thank GoHunt.com Insider and remind you guys that if you're looking for the best Western hunting resource out there to look at all these units in all these states and break down specific animals and what have you, GoHunt is a great resource for that. And you can use the JScott promo code when signing up for a GoHunt Insider membership. You're going to automatically get a $50, if you use the JScott promo code, you're going to automatically get a $50 Go Hunt Gear Shop gift card. And you can use that automatically to redeem, all sorts of things with that $50 or put it towards a purchase in that gear shop. I want to thank GoHunt for their sponsorship. I also want to thank KUIU.com. That's KUIU.com. They make the best ultralight hunting gear on the market today. Make sure to go check out their website. You can order directly. They're a direct-to-consumer company, and you can order directly off the website. Also, phonescope.com. Use the JScott16 promo code. You're going to get a 10% discount. And the Outdoorsman's, the Optics Authority, if you call them at 1-800-291-8065 or go to outdoorsmans.com, use the JScott promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount. Daniel, I hear in your voice normally super optimistic, super pumped up. I do hear a little bit, since I know you so well, I know you're bummed out about this drought. We've got elk season, coming up here in a couple months. From what I hear you saying, you're pretty nervous about the elk antler growth as well.
I am. I'm an honest guy, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel, and I'm nervous about it this year. We've got quite a few elk clients coming up, and a lot of them that have had a lot of points and actually drew in the max pool. I made sure that the ones that I had talked to before the draw, that they purchased the point guard. And to be honest with you, we're kind of playing it by ear. We're going to see what the spring does. We didn't get the moisture I was hoping to this spring. This summer's looking like it's going to be just a windy, hot summer as usual. So kind of depending on when the monsoons kick in and what bulls start looking like. The beauty of this point guard is, you have up until 48 hours before you can turn your tag back in before the start of the hunt. And I've told quite a few of my guys that, hey, let's see what happens after they rub. Let's see what bulls look like. Let's see what the cows are looking like, if it looks like we're going to have a rut or not. And at that point, we'll decide if we want to turn some tags back in and try for next year. So I'm worried about it. I'm more so with the elk than I am the deer, but definitely worried about it as dry as it is. And I've got quite a few friends. My family is actually in the ranching business. Quite a few friends and whatnot, and acquaintances that are also ranchers, and there's a lot of them that are not going to be allowed to bring their cattle up onto the forest this year because of the lack of water and feed. So, it's definitely on the forefront of my mind this year.
We also have sheep applications. I know you're chasing and obviously wanting your own sheep tag. Are you got anything up your sleeve, or are you kind of looking at some of the same units? I think one of the challenges that you and I always talk about is, as residents, we'd love to hunt some of the premier units in the state, but looking at the draw odds and the amount of points that we have, which is not max, we know that we have to apply for those units that are kind of more middle tier, and then I think you have to, try and pick the best middle tier units you can. You sometimes actually take an approach a little more liberal, meaning even more trying to get a tag than worrying necessarily about overall quality, or higher end rams. Just curious your thoughts if anything's changed going into this year.
Yes and no. It's, the sheep draw is definitely, it's a game of numbers. And I've seen that over the years, and you're kind of forced to do some research. We put in, between myself and Dar and some other friends of mine, we do quite a bit of research. We look at previous years, number of applicants, number of resident versus non-resident, number, and then of course the hunt statistics and whatnot of the rams that were killed in previous years. Typically we'll look at about 3 or 4 years, number of days hunted. We take all that into account, into consideration. And obviously, typically my strategy going into it is I kind of shoot for the stars on my first choice, and what I mean by that is not putting in for any of the premium units. It's more of those middle tier. Try to get one of those good middle tier units as my first choice, and like you said, my second choice, I'm just kind of looking for a tag. The harsh reality is that I could live in Arizona my entire life and never draw a sheep tag and never have the opportunity to hunt sheep in my home state. So, that kind of frustrates me, I guess, concerns me. So I'm willing to play that numbers game and maybe go into a unit that's not quite as good, just to have that opportunity to be able to hunt sheep here in Arizona. So,
I think for me it's a double-edged sword, because I feel like the Game and Fish does a great job of maintaining quality rams and a quality experience where we could have more opportunity and harvest more rams, but our quality and our overall size of rams would go down. I'm one that I'm okay with the possibility of going my whole life and not hunting sheep, knowing that there still is a possibility that if I do hunt sheep, that I'm going to be able to hunt, a book ram. And the thing that's pretty cool is that most of the units in Arizona, you have a chance at a book ram. I feel like if we started harvesting more rams, our quality would drop, and it would take the excitement level for me personally out of sheep hunting if, all the rams were 150, maybe top end 160 type rams. Having that 168, 170 type ram out there in most every unit, to me, still makes it exciting, to have some of those older, more mature and good horned rams out there. I'm willing to run the gamble that, okay, if I don't draw, at least whoever does draw has an awesome hunt and is able to hunt, a trophy class animal. But I do hear what you're saying. It would be nice. One good thing is we have time on our side. We're not too long in the tooth yet. But sometimes when you start looking at the statistics, it can get depressing real quick.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm with you there. I totally agree with you on that. But, we try to find those units where, that kind of semi-fly under the radar as far as those book rams are concerned. And, realize that, it's going to take some days, and it's going to take some time and a lot of scouting and everything to try to find those rams. But that it's worth it. I'd much rather have the chance of doing that versus knowing that I'm going to draw a tag and my top end is going to be a 140 to 150 type ram. So the flip side to that coin is, we are younger, but I would like to do one of these hunts when I'm young enough to be able to do it, and have the physical ability to be able to get into some of these units and to hunt them right in the way that they need to be hunted. So to find those book type rams. So definitely a double-edged sword. It's something that I look forward to and absolutely hate and despise every year, is waiting for the sheep, waiting for the sheep book and the hunts and the odds and the draw results to come out. So.
Yeah, well, let's hope that it's your year. Dar's just convinced that, since I have 2 Doll sheep hunts this summer, he's just like, I know it. You could put any unit that you want. You're just going to draw. I know you're going to get your desert tag, and you're going to get your desert tag on the same year you get your 2 Doll sheep. I'm like, well, I sure hope you're right. And he's like, yep. I just know it. I know that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that would be just about par for the course. So
I wouldn't mind it.
I got to agree with him on that.
All right, buddy. Well, it's always great having you on, and appreciate your outlook on 3C, on the mule deer, and congrats on your success last year. You guys shot some phenomenal bucks, and I'm sure you'll pull the old rabbit out of the hat again this year on the elk and on the deer. You guys always seem to find, your old the blind squirrel finding a nut every now and then. That's such bull with you guys. You guys always find something good, and just appreciate your friendship, and thanks for your help dialing us in on the forecast up there.
You bet. Glad to do it, Jay. Thank you.
All right. Take care. God bless.
I'll see you.
Bye.